Trauma bonds are unhealthy attachments that can be formed between an abuser and a victim. The science behind trauma bonds includes when a victim receives care or support from an abuser, their brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, which strengthens the bond. There are intermittent rewards and punishments. Abusers often use a cycle of rewards and punishments to create an emotional roller coaster for the victim. This can make it difficult for the victim to leave permanently. Hence, there's power imbalance. Trauma bonds are based on a power imbalance between the abuser and the victim. Some of the factors that contribute to trauma bonds include childhood maltreatment, lack of social support, low self esteem, and attachment insecurity. If you find yourself in an unhealthy relationship that you can't seem to leave, chances are you are experiencing a phenomenon known as trauma bonding. A trauma bond is a psychological response that happens when an abused person develops an unhealthy attachment to their abuser. Trauma bonds can occur in any situation where one person is exploiting another and are not limited to romantic relationships only. Trauma bonds aren't simply a challenging relationship, they are deeply rooted in our basic need for attachment, for security. The abuser wields tremendous power and control that compound with shame and embarrassment, making it impossible for their abused partner to leave. Trauma bonding occurs when the abused person forms a connection or relationship with the person who abuses them. And hence, Stockholm Syndrome is also one type of trauma bonding. Trauma bonding and codependency are similar, but they are different in the focus of behavior. In trauma bonding, there is desperate need for the relationship to continue. In some ways, it is akin to an addiction to relationship with the abuser. This focus can become so intense that you cannot recognize that the relationship is unhealthy despite the abuse or betrayal. Codependency is focused more on the addiction to caring for the one person and placing their needs above your own. In a codependent relationship, an individual can't be happy unless they support their partner at all costs, including their safety and well being. This behavior often enables the other partner to continue abusive or destructive behaviors with the codependent person. Sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between true love and trauma bonding as well, especially if you've experienced early trauma and unhealthy attachments. In short, trauma bonded relationships are based on power and control. Loving relationships are based on mutual respect and do not include abuse, violence, or intimidation. Healthy, loving relationships and equations with people involve honesty, mutual respect, physical and emotional safety, healthy boundaries, communicative and willing to work through problems together. Unhealthy trauma bonded relationships, however, may include intimidation, control over decisions or finances, threats and coercion, poor boundaries, mistrust, emotional abuse, physical abuse, isolation from friends and family. So, what is the road to recovery from trauma bonds? Anyone in an abusive relationship can develop a trauma bond with their abuser. If you have experienced childhood trauma, you may be more susceptible to these types of achievement and attachments. Achievements can be something that we self define when we are in a trauma bond because we are not very sure of our own ways and coping mechanisms, and hence we are not able to heal properly from what exactly has happened to us. So, your coping strategies develop over time and they keep you safe at some point, but however, it takes time to unlearn whatever we have been exposed to while being in trauma bonds. It is hard to look at your own trauma objectively and see your coping patterns realistically. It isn't that you don't know something isn't working. On the contrary, you know it very well and feel it intensely. What you can't do alone is separate the emotion from the behavior. In short, you are too emotionally close to it, and that is where you require help. There is no single therapy for treating trauma bonds. Rather, there are a variety of trauma-focused therapies that effectively help survivors of trauma, and these therapies can be used to heal trauma bonds. A clinical help can be given to you to move forward using a combination of therapeutic approaches. One is cognitive behavioral therapy and what is called as CBT. CBT focuses on exploring how thoughts and feelings influence behaviors and finding ways to change negative thought patterns. The process also helps change behavioral responses and develop more effective ways of dealing with challenges. Trauma-focused CBT is a specialized, evidence-based form of CBT that specializes and addresses the impact of traumatic events. Dialectical behavioral therapy, or what we call as DBT, is widely used to treat trauma. It is similar to CBT. However, DBT takes the process a step further and empowers people to change their behavioral patterns. DBT strategies like mindfulness, communication, distress tolerance, emotional regulation can help you learn better ways of managing your emotional responses to stressful situations so that you can make decisions that are healthy for you. There are also trauma bond interventions, which is outside of getting professional support. Here are some steps that you can take to break free from a trauma bonded relationship. The first thing is to become aware. When you educate yourself and learn how to identify the signs of unhealthy or abusive relationships, you learn what a healthy relationship looks like so that you can distinguish between the two. Focus on the here and now. When you stay focused in the present situation, it allows to see the relationship and abusive person as they are now. Hoping things will be different or reminiscing about the good times, which minimizes the present dangers and makes it tempting to stay in a particular relationship. You also find support where you can consider joining a support group. A support group gives you a place to openly talk about your experience and listen to the experience of others. Hearing from others who have gone through a similar situation can help you realize that you are not alone in your experience. You create some space for yourself. Sometimes you can be so close to a situation that you cannot see it clearly. Take a step back and get some distance from the abusive person so that you can see the relationship for what it is. Space gives you clarity. Also, you can make future plans. Think of how you want your future to look. Allow yourself to envision more for yourself and make plans to realize that future by exercising, journaling, engaging in a hobby or activity you enjoy, listening to music, relaxation practices like yoga, meditation, and getting good restorative sleep. You need to allow yourself to connect with people who are emotionally and physically safe. Practice healthy communication and advocating for yourself. Experiencing healthy relationships help to strengthen your ability to form healthy attachments. Be kind to yourself. Being in an abusive relationship can be devastating to your self-esteem and emotional well-being. Be mindful of the things you say to yourself. Remind yourself often that you have many positive qualities and that you are deserving of happiness. Be gentle with yourself when you stumble. You're learning a new way of living and it takes time. Give yourself the permission to heal. You're deserving of health and happiness. To want these things is not selfish. Healing starts with giving yourself permission to do what you need to do to engage in healing process. You are allowed to grow and move on from environments and relationships that do not serve you. If you find yourself wanting to fantasize about what could be or what you hope will be, stop, take a deep breath, pause, remind yourselves that you have made a commitment to live in truth. Even if you don't choose to leave the relationship, which might appear to be abusive, in the meantime, you can at least remind yourself that you will stop fantasizing about what is not happening. Get out of that world and start living in realistic situations. Allow the ability to live again. Allow yourself the opportunity to heal and grow.